Friday night at Mershon Auditorium. Do you prefer legendary or iconic?
Well,
Jay Leno's
neither
going to be joining us.
actually. It's a little, it's just an excuse for let's see the guy before he dies.
So excited to have Jay Leno joining us in Columbus next week. And Jay, what I want to ask, is what can people expect when they come to a Jay Leno show in 2020?
Well, I just stopped doing political stuff only because so many people feel they have to get their opinion in front of the joke. And to me, I assume people come to a comedy show to get away from that. I mean, I'll make a couple of references to it, but I just to dwell on it for a long period of time. And I find since I just stopped doing political stuff, ticket sales are up because you get the half of the audience you haven't alienated,
Sure.
you know. But you can get both sides. I mean, to me, I tend to have friends on both sides of any issue almost. And I enjoy lively discussion, but it's gotten to the point where, hey, man, you don't joke about Trump, man. And people get all mad. And it's a joke. It's a joke, please. So it's okay. I find it, people seem to like that. And it's just, Rodney Dangerfield and I were friends for 40 years. I have no idea if he was a Republican or Democrat. We never discussed politics. It was just about jokes. And, sometimes uh, if a joke is really mean, but if it's really funny, well, that's okay because
Yeah.
funny triumphs everything. I think people get mad when a joke is mean and not funny.
Yeah,
Then they feel
sure.
like, oh, but when you go, oh, that was really mean. But that was pretty good. That was funny. When I watch uh, Glazer, the comedian,
Yeah.
she's really funny. It's so dirty, but it's really funny. It's not, the dirty part is not an excuse for not being funny. It's an addition to it. So yeah, so she makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But
Are you working blue these days, or are you
no,
keeping
no,
it
no,
was family friendly, right?
I never worked blue.
I know.
I mean, I have no aversion to working blue. It just seems lazy to me.
Yeah, I get
I
that.
mean, I like, when I did Letterman in those days, we still can't to a certain extent, but it's a lot stricter. So to me, to come up with non sort of pornographic, I mean, like with David, I would say I'd talk about. I remember I used to do a bit about carnival rides. I had David have these shirtless syphilitic druids working the machine, and David goes, "Syphilitic druid." That's right, David. That's a druid who has syphilis. And we would get off in these tangents and just have a lot of fun. And you realize it's really more fun to be creative because I once booked myself into Oral Roberts University just to see if I could play it, and they said, "Hey, we have certain rules." No sex jokes, no joke. Okay. I didn't do it, but they laughed just as hard. I mean, they were good on it. They just didn't want to hear it. Okay. And I have the sort of old-fashioned notion that you're there to please the audience, and I don't like to alienate half a crowd. If somebody brought their parents, you don't want to see their mom walking out. Oh,
Yeah.
geez, So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I work clean. That doesn't mean, I mean, I'm not doing balloon animals. I mean, you could
That's a
be,
maybe a potential YouTube series. Jay Leno does balloon animals.
but I mean, I think you can go right up to the line and have fun with it. Which I think is really the key.
For so long, you were in all our households every night. And it was such a pleasure to have you there when it felt like the Carson shoes were impossible to fill. You came into a tough position, but you were there. And do you still carry the memories of what that was like, those early days of the night show?
Oh, I loved it. It was the greatest job ever. I liked it that it was every night rather than once a week. Because once a week you agonize. Oh, last week was terrible. And what if this is terrible? And with the Tonight Show, you did a new show. It's like raising laboratory mice. Okay, those were unsuccessful. Okay, we got another batch tomorrow. And you had to go right, pencils down. Okay, you got to go what you got right now. Make it as funny as you can. Okay. It's a bit like a newspaper. It's not libel because you wrote what you knew at the time. When you write for a magazine, you've got to fact check it implicitly because you could be sued because you had the time to do it. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it. No, I enjoyed it. I mean, I came from an era when the idea was to make fun of both sides and people couldn't figure out your politics. I get this. Well, Mr. Leno, you and your Republican friends. Well, Mr. Leno, you and your Democratic buddies. I hope you have. And you get angry letters from both sides on the same subject. And you realize, wow, these two groups each saw it a different way.
Yeah, that's how you know you're doing it right, right? When everybody's
I
equally,
think so. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the
Okay,
only time you know you're doing it right is if they're laughing. Then you go,
right.
okay, well, that's what counts.
Do you, obviously, every night, the creative process and juices were flowing every day when you were in that Tonight Show run. Do you still, because, you're often called the hardest working man in show business, and you're always on the road doing stand-up stuff. Do you find yourself still always kind of like writing material in your head?
Yeah, I mean that's the fun part, You on the Tonight Show, you do different jokes in the same place every night. And when you're on the road, you do the same jokes in a different place every night. And each one has its advantages. When you do a joke one way Monday, I gotta laugh, but maybe if I tweak it, and then Tuesday or Wednesday, you do it a different way. By the time you do that joke on the weekend, oh, you've got it down. On the Tonight Show, you had the immediacy of people just watch the news. Oh, but they just heard about subject A, and you have a joke about it right then and there. But just because of its immediacy and the fact you're the first one to respond on it, you get a bigger laugh than you probably deserve.
Yeah.
The difference between
That makes
watching a
sense.
comedian for free and then buying a ticket. They're buying a ticket, they want to hear, okay, they want to hear the next level of jokes.
For sure. So when you're on the road, is it pretty much a similar set from show to show? If people have seen you before. Are they seeing the same stuff, or are you mixing in new stuff? What can they expect?
Well, I think it's a little bit like going to see your favorite recording artist. You hear the hits
Yeah.
and then the new material in there. I mean, I tend to do the same thing quite often and polish it because I don't do Netflix specials. I don't do
Yeah.
HBO specials. When you do those, people that are fans of yours, you watch the guy 10 times. Then you go to a club and you're mouthing along with them. Oh man, this is the same thing we just saw there. But if I did a joke 6 years ago, people probably don't remember the
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
It's a bit like magic tricks. If you see it every day, you figure out how it's done. But you see it every 3 or 4 years. Oh, wait a minute, did I?
That's a
You know,
good way to
you
put
know,
it. I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
going to see Bob Newhart once a few years ago, and he was doing material from his early albums. But it was just like you said. It was hearing those jokes that you listened to on a record, growing up, and
Yeah.
there was something about it, just like seeing your favorite recording artist.
Yeah, Newhart was one of my favorites. Newhart did not have any gimmicks. He wasn't ethnic. He didn't have a catchphrase. He just had clever material. And I mean, my favorite Newhart joke, and this is the essence of Bob Newhart. I don't know if it's that funny, but it makes me laugh. He used to do a bit about the first astronaut to have contact in space with an extraterrestrial. It's a world headlines, blah, blah, blah. So he comes back to Earth and there's a big press conference and people asking, so one reporter goes, how far ahead of us are these aliens? And Bob says, about 6 weeks. And you realize 6 weeks, 2 weeks is too soon. 6 months, you can't catch up. But 6 weeks, oh, you're
Nailed
not
it.
going. Oh, they're 6 weeks ahead. Oh, they're going to have the bomb. They're going to have the new thing. They're going to be. You can never catch up to 6 weeks, and it always used to make me laugh. And some people laughed uproariously, and other people didn't get it. But I just liked it because it
That's so
it,
great.
it was the slider. It was like a
Yeah.
fastball inside. Boom. Very clever. Yeah, I love Bob. He was terrific.
Jay, when we announced you were coming to town, we got questions on our social media. People asking, is he just going to come talk about cars? There's a
No, no, I'm
whole
not talking
there's a
about
whole
one.
generation of people who know you from Jay Leno's Garage.
Well, yeah, that's interesting too, because you have to have things that would make you interesting to someone else. And people go, I don't really like the guy, but I love his cars. Oh, well, that's fine. That's good enough. I'll take it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm a huge believer in low self-esteem. It's the key to success. If you don't think you're the smartest person in the room, you're more likely to listen and pay attention. I mean, so many friends of mine that have TV shows, their egos get in the way. Look, I want this lighting system. And the lighting director who's been doing it 30 years will tell you, no, it's not good. Well, I think to me, I assume the lighting guy knows lighting, the directing guy knows directing, the woman who's the stage manager, and you let people do their jobs. And when they tell you you suck, believe them. Don't think, No, I didn't suck. I was really good. No, you sucked because 10 people said you sucked, you know. And that's, I think that's the key.
Speaking of cars, quite the collection. And I thought of you this weekend when I
Mhm.
was at Graceland. I had made a little road trip with my wife, and I'm not even a big car guy, but when I'm there in Elvis Presley's car museum, right, and
Right, right.
I'm standing in front, the classic pink Cadillac or the 1973, what is it, a Stutz Blackhawk. There's some
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
cool stuff.
actually I got thrown out of Graceland once
Did you
because,
really?
well, I'm in the garage and there's a 1956 Harley Davidson Panhead that Elvis bought. Just a big old Harley, maybe 50 horsepower at best. Just 19. And the guide walking through says, "Oh, and this is Elvis's supercharged supercycle that he would drive at speeds of up to 150 miles an hour." And I went, "No, the thing won't go over 75 miles an hour." And I get out. But I won't get out. And the guy threw me out. And I said, "I'm sorry," but I said, "You're really saying it's not, it's not souped up. It's not a supercycle. It's not super. It's just an old Harley Panda." But I got thrown out.
The myth grows sometimes as it
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
along. Speaking of myth, is this true that you were seen riding on a big boy steam engine the other day?
Oh yeah, that was great fun. That's the
Tell me
largest.
this story.
Well, it's Union Pacific, and I love companies that take care of their heritage. And this in the 1940s was the last gasp of steam. I mean, steam ran the country from about 1811 to just about pretty much the end of the 20s. But in 1941, they built 25 of these giant, huge uh, railroad locomotives powered by steam. Everything had gone to diesel, electric, and whatever. And it's like watching the Empire State Building go down, you know. Uh, Actually, if you want to see it, it'll be on September 23rd. It'll air the segment. It was great fun. It's 600 tons. I mean, it's a mammoth thing to see it move, and it's like the hand of God. You just open the throttle, there's no revving of an engine. There's nothing, and billows of steam. It's quite romantic. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We went about 90 miles, something like that, and it was
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
guess people were quite surprised when they saw you riding there along on the train.
I'm surprised they could see me. You look like a weeble with your head sticking out of this thing. It's giant. I mean, first of all, it's as big as two locomotives put together. I mean, it's an enormous thing. You can Google it and see what it looks like online. I mean, people look like ants standing next to it. It's really quite fun.
Jay, I appreciate your time here today. One last question for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been asked over many times over the years your favorite guest or your favorite episode or your favorite car. But I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite day? Just one day that you're like, you know what, from beginning to end, that was a perfect Jay Leno day, and I cherish
Um, Yesterday was all right.
it.
Any day without, some horrible thing happening. I don't know what the best day would be. I believe in contentment. If you try to be happy all the time, well, then you're a crazy person because happy is euphoric state. And I'm not a depressed person. I don't wallow in depression. Something goes wrong. Okay, tomorrow's a new day. So contentment is the most underrated thing because you're content. I mean, you're fine. If you're happy, oh God, this is so great. I'm so excited. Okay, and then you're wearing people out and they're going, what's the matter? What's that? Yeah, so I don't strive for happiness. I don't wallow in depression. I just look for contentment, like, oh, that was good. You know, like when people go, hey, I enjoyed the show, it was good. Thank you much. When people go, oh man, you're the funniest guy ever. Well, no, I'm not. I'm really not the funniest guy ever. Hey, you suck. No, that guy's not wrong. Oh, this guy here that merely enjoyed the show. Oh, well, that's very nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So any day you're contented, I think is pretty.
That's a good day in my book. All right. Any last words for the people of Columbus thinking about coming out to see you
No,
on
I will
Friday
see you
night?
there. I've been to Columbus many times. The first time I was there, I was in Dayton and I was doing the morning news. And they had a female anchor, and I'm waiting to talk to her, and during the commercial break, she goes, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I'm going to talk to you in a minute. I said, that's no problem. I said, my name is Jay Leno. I'm playing here in town. And I host the Tonight Show occasion. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We talked with Jay Leno. Leno, who claims to have hosted the Tonight Show. I go, what? And I said, I'm not claiming. I mean, you have tape here in the studio. I can prove that I hosted. She said, well, but it's just because you didn't see it. And I just had a lot of fun with it. Really, I was actually asking anybody out there, please call the station if you remember seeing me. Please, I'm innocent man about to go to prison here for lying on the public airways. But it just made me look. Leno, who claims to have hosted the Tonight Show.
That's great.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
that's why I love Ohio.
There you go. We and Ohio loves you, Jay. We look forward to seeing you Friday night, September 13th, Mershon Auditorium. Tickets available right now at Ticketmaster.com. Jay, a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.